What's going on, guys? It's Matt here, and today I'm going to show you all how to build a RAG agent inside of n8n. And in particular, we're going to be building a student frequently asked question RAG agent, which allows students to ask questions about particular courses, and the RAG agent responds appropriately with answers. Now, before we get into the actual tutorial itself, I want to show you all a little of what the final product is going to look like so you know what to expect by the end of this tutorial. So, as you can see here in the n8n workflow, on the left-hand side here, we're going to be building a section uploading data into a vector database, and we're going to be working a lot with the Google Drive node to access text files that our RAG agent is going to have for knowledge, and also to download these files and send it into a vector database. Now, for the actual vector database that we're going to be using in this tutorial, we're going to be using Pinecone as our vector database. So for the RAG agent component of what we're going to be building, we're gonna be sending chat messages to our AI agent, and we're gonna be using the chat trigger node in n8n to automatically talk to the AI agent. And of course, the AI agent is gonna reference our vector database Pinecone to match queries with the most appropriate answers. Now, to see what is actually gonna be output by our AI agent, let's take a look here at our fake course information text file over here. So I generated fake course information involving different course names and descriptions, and these courses have different policies and procedures, and there's different important dates for the exams and the breaks, for example. So we're going to see here if our AI agent is able to answer these questions. So one thing that I added in the sheet was the various courses that are offered. So if we go to our final product here and ask, let's say, what courses are offered, it's gonna send that question to the AI agent. The AI agent is gonna recognize it needs to check the vector database, and then the large language model is gonna output the various courses offered. So you can see that it did all that here. It says the courses offered include, and then it lists the different courses that are offered based on the information we gave it. So without further ado, let's get started into the actual tutorial itself. So the first thing that we're going to need to build our student RAG agent is this this execute workflow node, which will allow the workflow to be executed as soon as we click on this button right here. So after that, like I said, we're going to be starting on the component uploading data into a vector database. And so we're going to be needing the Google Drive node to find the text that we need to upload into this database and then to download that text. So in n8n, we're going to search for Google Drive node. And then the first Google Drive node we're going to need is search files and folders. We're going to click on that. Now, if this is your first time using the Google Drive node inside of n8n, you're not going to have credentials to connect to. So you're going to need to be able to get those credentials. And I'm going to show you how to do that right here if you don't already have them. So the first thing you're going to want to do to connect your credentials for the Google Drive node is click on the credentials, click on create new credential, and then you're going to leave it on OAuth 2 to connect to. And then now you're going to Google Cloud and go to cloud.google.com. So you're going to click on that. I'm already logged in, but you might need to create an account. So either log in or sign up. And then once you do that, click console. And then once you're on console, you're going to want to create a new project. So I'm just going to create a new project called student RAG agent. And then you just click create. It's going to take a few seconds to create. Once that's created, you just go back over to your projects tab and you click on your project. So now I'm inside my project, and once you're in your project, you click on the navigation menu in the top left, click on APIs and services, and the first thing you're going to want to do is go to OAuth consent screen. Once you're there, just click get started, and so it's going to ask for a bunch of information. The first bit of information it's going to ask for is app name. You again can just call it whatever. I'm just going to call it the same thing, student rag agent. For user support email, use whatever email you want to use as support. So you can just use your personal email. In audience, you're going to want to click external. Then in contact information, just put in the same email that you did for the app information support. So next, then just check it off. Press continue and then create. Again, it will create for a few seconds. So once you filled out that little form there, you're going to want to click on the Clients tab. And inside the Clients tab, click Create Client. And then for application type, you're going to want to click Web Application. Again, you can just leave the default web application name, or you can change it. I'm just going to leave it as Web Client 1. And then the important part here is where it says authorized redirect URIs, you're going to click add URI. And you're going to go back into your n8n workflow and copy and paste this OAuth redirect URL and go back to Google Cloud and copy and paste that. So once you add that in, then you click create and it'll provide you with a client ID and a client secret. Again, you're going to use that client ID back in your n8n workflow. Just copy and paste that. Do the same thing for your client secret. So I copied and pasted both of them in. And then you can click save if you want. So before the last thing we got to do before it will actually work and connect to our Google account is to enable the API inside of Google Cloud, or otherwise it's not going to work. So in order to do that, you're going to again click on the navigation menu, APIs and services, and then enabled APIs and services. You click on the plus up here for enable APIs and services, and you search Google Drive. You're going to see this Google Drive API result pop up. You click on it and then simply just press enable. Sorry guys, there's one more thing that I forgot that you guys actually need to do. The last thing is to go to Audience tab in Google Cloud. Then you go to Test Users, and you need to add your email as a test user, or otherwise it will not give you access to communicate with the Google Cloud APIs. So add your email as a test user. Now, once you go back into n8n and click Sign In with Google, you're going to click your email, and now because you added your email as a test user, it's going to recognize that you've been given access to test the app. So you're going to click continue, select all, and then continue again. And now your connection is successful for the Google Drive node. So once you have all that, your Google Drive credentials are finally connected. So with your Google Drive credentials connected, what we are going to want to do is figure out what folder our text file of information that we're going to provide to the RAG agent is actually stored in. So in my Google Drive, I have a bunch of different folders here. I have a folder student FAQ RAG agent, and inside of there I have the fake course information as well as some of the other information we're going to be using later on in this tutorial. So now back inside of n8n, what we're going to want to do is go to filter, click add filter, and click folder. Then folder, you're going to write exactly what your deepest folder is for where your text file is stored for the RAG agent. So mine was called student FAQ RAG agent. So it's going to search for that for a second. It's going to find that folder. And then for our search query here, we're going to type in exactly what the file name is that we're searching for. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this file name in our search query. And then I'm going to put the limit to 1 in case that there's other files in my Google Drive or folders that have the same name. So I'm just going to limit that to 1. Then I'm going to click execute step. and you're gonna see it's able to find that one text file that contains the fake course information. So once you get that, the second node that we're going to add into our workflow is, again, the Google Drive node, but it's going to be the download file node. So we're going to click on download file. We're going to connect that up into our workflow, and you can use the credentials that you previously just added. You're going to leave the operation as download. You're going to leave the resources file. But the one thing that we're going to change here is file. Instead of from list, it's going to be by ID. And we're going to drag and drop this ID into here. And the last thing we're going to do inside of this node is click on options and then click on add Google file conversion. And then you click on add conversion and change the Google Docs here from HTML to TXT. Once you do that, simply save, and then you can execute this step, and you can see that the file has been downloaded here into a binary file. So now our file is downloaded into binary, and now we can communicate with our vector database Pinecone and to try to upload this file. So we're going to search for Pinecone in n8n, and you're going to see Pinecone vector store. You're going to click on it. You're going to click on add documents to vector store, since we're uploading our knowledge base into the vector database. Now, just like the Google Drive node, you're going to have credentials to connect with here. So I already have credentials connected, but what you're going to want to do is just head on over to pinecone.io. On pinecone.io, you're going to want to log in or sign up. And then once you're logged in or sign up, you just simply go to your profile API key listing, and you just create an API key, and then you copy and paste it into here. So I already did that, so we're just going to skip that part. All right, now once your credentials are connected, the first thing we're going to want to do inside this node is select our Pinecone index. So the Pinecone index is where all of your data will be uploaded for your RAG agent. So I already went ahead and created a Pinecone index for this tutorial, Matt Walter YouTube student FAQ right here. And then, but you guys will need to create your own index. And to do that, you just click create index and type in your index name. You can leave the default configurations, and then you just select your region and cloud provider, and then click create index. And once your index is created, you're going to select it in n8n. So I'm selecting it there, and then click execute step. Before you click execute step, you got to add a embedding in a document. So we're going to be using for our embedding is simply OpenAI's embedding node. So we're going to click on that, and you're also going to want to connect your OpenAI credentials just by dragging and dropping your API key from OpenAI. We're going to be using the text embedding 3 small model. So that's our embedding node. Now for documents, you're going to click on default data loader, and the type of data coming in is not JSON. We said it was binary, so we're going to select binary. We're going to leave the mode and data format as it is. Now for text splitting, you could leave it as simple, but I like to leave it as custom to be able to have smaller chunks that is fed into the vector database, so our data is able to be answered in more detail, essentially. So I'm going to check it off as custom, and then I'm going to add a text splitter for the custom. So for text splitter, I'm going to select character text splitter, and I'm going to change the chunk size here to 500, and then the chunk overlap to 20. And once I do that, I'm just going to save. So we added our default data loader and our text splitter. Now this should be everything that we need to run this section of the workflow. So we're just going to click execute workflow here. our whole workflow for uploading the vector database is going to run, and it's going to upload into the database. All right, guys, so there's actually one issue that I forgot to adjust before executing the workflow. So you can see here that there's the error of the vector dimensions do not match. So if you go to your Pinecone index, you can see here that there's dimensions, and you can see how many dimensions you have. So mine is 1024. Now you need to make sure that your dimensions inside of Pinecone match exactly with the dimensions of the embedding node that you're using. So here, this is actually outputting 1536. So in order to adjust the dimensions of the embedding node, what we're going to want to do is click on Add Options, and you can click on Dimensions, and now you can specify exactly the dimensions that you want to output for the embedding node. So we're going to click 1024 to match the Pinecone database, save it, and simply just run that workflow again, and it should upload everything into the vector database. So you can see workflow successful. Now if we go back into our index, we can see that workflow uploaded all these bits of information for our text file into our vector database and chunked them into different portions based on that text splitting that we specified. So that is awesome. Now, so our first component of our workflow is done. Now we are going to work on the actual RAG agent component itself. So to get started, again, to first communicate with our RAG agent, what we're going to want to do is grab the chat trigger node from above so that we can send messages. So we grab that, and then after that, we're going to want to click the open panels, open node panels, then click on AI, and then click on AI agent. So with this AI agent node, you're going to connect it up to the chat trigger node, and we are going to want to specify a chat model that we're going to be using. So we're just going to be using OpenAI here. You can just leave it as the default model, so GPT 4.1 mini for us. You can add a memory if you want. So you can make it simple memory so it's able to remember everything in the current conversation. And what we're going to want to do for tools is enable our AI agent to have access to the vector database. So we're going to be using the Pinecone tool. So we're going to search up Pinecone, and we're going to click on tool first and then search up Pinecone. Click on Pinecone vector store, and what we're going to want to do is write a description for what this tool does. So we're going to say, what should we say? Answers questions about questions that students have about courses. Students have about courses. So we're going to save that description. Then again, we're going to select the same Pinecone index. So this one here, save that too. And now that should be everything. Now the last thing we can do is just rename these different nodes. So instead of AI agent, it's going to be student FAQ RAG agent. I'm going to save that. And also another thing that we need to do is add a system prompt for our AI agent. So to do that, we're going to click on Add Options here, click System Message. And I already created a system prompt that is going to be used for this tutorial here. So the system prompt just informs our AI agent that it's a course information assistant that helps students. And whenever a student has a question regarding a course, it calls our tool that goes to our vector database and sends answers about the course data. So I'm just going to copy and paste that into the system message. And since in the system message too, we specified the name of our tool as course FAQ and then underscore vector DB. I'm also going to go to our Pinecone vector store tool and just change the name of that to course FAQ vector DB. So there we go. Now there's one more thing that we need to do. We need to add our embeddings for the course FAQ vector DB. Again, we're going to use OpenAI for our embeddings. Same embedding model, and again, just like before, we have to make sure our embedding dimensions match. So we're going to type in 1024 since that's what's in our Pinecone index as dimensions. So we're going to save that, and then now, guys, this AI agent should be able to answer whatever questions that we throw at it regarding the fake information. So if we go back to our fake course information here, let's just think of a few questions to throw at it. So for important dates here, let's ask it, when is spring break? So when is spring break? It's gonna send off that information to our AI agent, access the tool, and then it answers spring break is scheduled for March 23rd to 30th, 2025, which that is correct right here. Let's give it another question. So if we just copy and paste this FAQ right here about the prior coding experience for the class. So do any prior coding experience? And the answer is, it says yes. Is that what it says here? Yes. Students are expected to have completed at least one programming course in Python or Java. So that's correct. Let's ask one more. How about the weekly schedule of this class? What time does Comp Sci 305 take place? And the answer is Tuesdays and Thursdays 10:30 to 11:45 p.m. So you can see that, yeah, it answered the correct time for the lectures there. So yeah, guys, there you go. All right, guys, that covers this tutorial for n8n to build a student frequently asked question RAG agent that answers students' questions regarding courses and then provides answers to them. I hope you guys got a lot of out of this tutorial. If you did, please like, subscribe, and comment. I'd love to hear what you guys are working on in AI automation or n8n. And I'd also love to hear what tutorials you guys would want to see in the future on this channel. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next tutorial.